You want to have built up a good position for yourself by the start of March because that's when you're going to get tested. Let's take a look at March now. This is when the gauntlet starts to pick up again. You start off with the Timberwolves, Clippers, Nuggets, Mavericks. You got the Grizzlies, Rockets, Kings, Lakers, Raptors, Bulls, Cavs, Bucks, Celtics, Timberwolves, and Rockets for the month of March. 15 total games in March, which is a lot. 9 at home, 6 on the road. Thankfully, only 2 are back-to-backs. But it's interesting because you start off really tough with the Timberwolves, Clippers, Nuggets, and Mavs to start the month. Then you have an easier middle stretch, but even that middle stretch, all of those teams are competitive except for the Raptors and Bulls.
Yeah.
And then from March 24th onward, you face the Bucks twice, the Celtics twice, the Timberwolves, a bunch of other great teams over the final 11 games of your season. And they do have a 5-game homestand from March 17th through the 26th that I'm looking at there, which is going to be crucial because you got the Raptors, the Bulls, and the Cavs, and then Bucks, Celtics. Like, you need to take those first 3, and then if you can take one of the 2 against Bucks and Celtics, 4-1 over that homestand would be pretty good to help close out the month of March.
I'm not concerned about March or April because by that time you'll have that 1 seed wrapped up, so you can put it in cruise control.
Think so?
No.
He said no.
No, I don't.
Just kidding.
March is tough. I mean, like I said, this is why I think February is the month that's most important for me because when you get to March, April, wow.
You want to have built up a good position for yourself by the start of March because that's when you're going to get tested.
March is a lot. When you think about it, you have like 4 games almost every single week. If you go like Monday through Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically 4 games every single week.
Okay. You and I were talking about this earlier. It's the iron sharpens iron thing at the end of the season, right?
Yeah.
You debate, would you rather have tougher opponents to get you ready? Now, the counter argument would be that's what you had last year and you got your teeth kicked in the first round. But I actually think I like having a stretch like this in March, and then we'll get into April in a second. But I don't mind it as much as I don't like the first 2 months of the season.
I wish it would be a little bit more spread out, but you're right. The problem with last year was they had that stretch where they played, the Celtics twice and the Bucks, and they got their teeth kicked in a lot of those games. So maybe that was a warning sign. So hopefully this year, over this brutal stretch, we see more than we saw last year when they started to throw in all these tough games down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we had that 10-game stretch to end this year. And I mean, it was basically do or die bet style at that point, right? It was like a playoff game 10 games before the season ended. And so you would hope that the lessons learned from last year will transition into this year. And it's like, okay, let's take January and February a little more serious because we know what's coming. If that's the case, then I love what I'm seeing in March and April because it's cool if you're playing those games and you're trying to sharpen things up. It's not cool if you're playing those games and sharpen things up and on life support.
And try to fight for positioning.
They were on life support
not
this
be in
year.
the
You know what I mean?
the plan.
If they have a nice lead and they're able to give themselves some cushion, this is ideal for me because I like to play. I want you playing the best teams, tougher schedule. I want your rotations to start to shrink. I want the players to start to, iron sharpens iron at the end, man. I want them playing their best basketball at the end.
My biggest concern, though, and I know I joked you'd have a big lead. I don't think anybody in the West is going to have a big lead. I think this is going to be very much like last year's West. So even if you go into that as a 1 seed, I think you're going to be so close that your margin for error is going to be very limited in general with the West. So I think regardless, you're still going to have that pressure on you this year in that time. You may not be fighting for your life, but you're going to still be fighting for serious positioning at that point.
It's a good possibility.
Yeah.
How do we close out, Flex?
Oh, man.
April.
Murderer's Row. April. We got 7 games in April. Let's get right into it. Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. You got the Boston Celtics. You got at Milwaukee, at Boston, at New York Knicks, at home versus Golden State, at home versus OKC, at home versus that young, tough San Antonio Chris Paul team. And then you end the year with a Sacramento team that I think is going to be pretty damn good too, with the addition of DeMar DeRozan. So, yeah, there's no layups here. Mm-hmm. These are 7 games. The first 3, how you come out of those first 3 is going to dictate how you win. My fear is that if you hit that last stretch and you lose to Milwaukee, Boston, and New York consecutively, 3 straight,
that's tough.
Then you're putting yourself in a situation where you might have to sweep the rest of the way to close the year for playoff position. So, man, it's going to be tough. Only one back-to-back. You got a Golden State and OKC back-to-back on the 8th and the 9th. I like the competition, but it all depends on how they set themselves up for this month.
You're going 6-1.
That'd be great.
I'll take 4 and 3.
I know it's kind of crazy to do this.
Good.
No. Yeah. It's stupid to do this. I do this every year on the first day we get the schedule. I break it down and give my little what I think is going to happen. I actually have them going 4 and 3 in that stretch, and ironically doing exactly what I hope they didn't have to do. I got them losing the first 3 and then sweeping the table the last 4. So
6-1, and the one you lose is the Spurs.
Well, listen, by the
Lindsay
end
will lose her mind.
Chaos.
Listen, last year I was pissed because it was your rookie season. You didn't have a guy like Chris Paul to really help guide you along in that type of way. Mm-hmm. This year, I feel like if I was a fan of the Spurs, I would expect a lot more from them this year. Knowing that, okay, you've had your first season, you just played in the Olympics, you have Chris Paul teaching you the ropes and feeding you everything you could ever ask for. Mm. You should be better.
Yeah.
Last year, though, WTF, Suns.
Eric, please clip that so when it happens, I can play it back and let everybody know I know what I'm talking about.
When they go 6-1.
But...
and lose to the Spurs.
So we wrap up the regular season that Sunday, April 13th. Then you've got the play-in tournament that week, the 15th through the 18th. And then the 2025 NBA playoffs will begin that Saturday on the 19th. So... that'll lead us into whatever may come from the playoffs.
Yeah.
We're not going to pretend to even think about that.
This is going to be fun.